Let me be very honest, even though if in your project this process is not followed, still you can make some changes by which you can start following it at your level, and you will find nice peace will come to you, and comparatively to the rest of the people, you will be able to manage yourself pretty nicely without any confusions, a lack of clarity, customer tension, or delivery release tension. So if you just apply these principles for your work, what do you do individually, that is also going to give you a lot of value add rather than waiting for other people to do it. Okay. So but if, okay, देखो, a point is, if you are into a project where you are a senior role, and you can add these decisions to, in order to set up processes in your team, that will give you a lot of value further. Okay. So you can apply that at your own level. If you are a senior in the team, you can work with your team to really apply this kind of a thing. Okay. Yeah, it's already on YouTube. Okay, so this one is on YouTube, the link will be available. So just understand. Okay, so if you're at a senior role, you can apply all these things with your company, and if you do it like a process, it will give a lot of value add to you, because these things are like pretty tough and hard and very basic discipline, but if it is violated, impacts are very serious. Okay, and that's what comes with experience, ki what mistakes are there and what you should do, what you should not do, and how the life can become as beautiful or as hectic. Okay, so this is what comes with maturity. Okay. So I would suggest all you guys to go through this in a very clean, detailed manner. If you are at a junior position in your company, take these learnings, start applying it to yourself. And if you're at a senior position, try to see how you can compare your current system with these things, what we are discussing, and really apply that, enforce that in your system in order to get some nice changes. Okay. So this is what we are going to do. Now, before really starting with the topic, okay, last time we conducted our session on last Friday, ठीक है, as part of corporate agile. तो उसके बाद फिर Saturday हो गया, Sunday हो गया, Monday हो गया, 3 days back to back gap. So before really resuming with our today's topic, I would like to give you a quick glance of what we discussed last time, and then on top of it, we will continue with the journey. ठीक है. So basically, the way I look at it is a total 3 sessions where we will be discussing on these standards on how you should behave on a day-to-day basis. So last time was the session 1 of it, where we discussed about the grooming related and internal grooming related, what is the expectation, what you should try to do. Then continuation of that will be today, and we will touch a few topics, okay, how you get started with your sprints and other things. And then as we go forward in tomorrow's session, we will focus more on how the entire sprint executes and what you should do on a daily basis, like start of the day, end of the day, start of the sprint, end of the sprint, what would be your roles and everything. Okay, so I think in 3 days nicely we will be able to touch all these areas. So today is the part 2 of that, tomorrow will be the part 3. Okay, fine. So before getting started, let me share the screen and we will do a quick recap of what we discussed yesterday and Friday, and then we will go on forward with it. Okay. Okay, Steam. So have a look here. So already, guys, we have been sharing this LinkedIn blog link. As part of that, this was our day where we discussed the corporate agile part 1 on 11th of November. Okay. So I'll just walk through this quick presentation which I uploaded. The same thing which we already discussed as part of last call. Okay. Now, okay, few critical things. So we discussed what exactly is agile. So piece by piece project development, keeping it simple. In chunk, develop, release in chunk wise. Okay. Next, moving on forward, we discussed that there is this Scrum, Kanban, Scrum One. So we will stick with the Scrum approach of doing things. Okay. And then at a high level, a newer terminology, sprint. So 2 weeks working window is what we call as a sprint. So some companies might have 3 weeks window, some companies might have 1 week window also. So that is a sprint. Roles are like product owner, Scrum Master, and technical team. In majority of the projects which I have seen, so product owner is generally hired at the business side. So okay, let's say if your clients are sitting in Europe, so for multiple projects, what I have seen is they hired the product owner at their side itself. matlab European clients were there, so they hired a product owner at their end, and the rest technical team, Scrum Master plus tech team were from our Indian location. Okay. So most of the time, because product works closely with the business guys, but it completely depends how it is organized in your projects. Okay, it could be different as well, but yeah, product guy has to work very closely with the business team to understand the requirement. Okay, so that is how it is. So just be clear on that. Next, moving on forward, we discussed this full kind of approach. We have not gone through it yet. We need to step by step get into. Actually, whatever we discussed last time, it is not even coming to this position. Okay, so it is all about before even this activity happens of sprint planning and all those things. We are discussing about pre-grooming and all those things. Okay, so fine, but that's what, as part of today we will be touching few of these sections. Okay, or maybe this portion itself, because guys, the way you will start your sprint, that itself will define how your 2 weeks will be. That's the beauty part of sprint. If you are very effective in this section, your entire 2 weeks will be very smooth. No hiccups, no problems, deadlines will be met, confusion will not be there. If you are just doing the things properly till this phase. अरे स्टार एंड ऑल दैट क्या चल रहा है गाइस, थोड़ा सा कंट्रोल उदय. अब आई डोंट नो हाउ टू रेस्ट्रिक्ट एक्सेस फॉर डूइंग दैट, बट थोड़ा सा जमीन पे आ जाते हैं गाइस, अर्थ पे रह जाएंगे. लेट्स नॉट गो टू स्टार्स. शेयरिंग स्क्रीन अगेन, आई डोंट नो हाउ टू. ओके, सेटिंग्स में होता है क्या? ओके, अभी गाइस ठीक है, अभी उसमें टाइम नहीं लगाते, लेटर ऑन आई विल एक्सपेरिमेंट. सो राइट नाउ आई एम शेयरिंग स्क्रीन. ओके, सो हूएवर वाज ड्राइंग इट, थोड़ा सा कंट्रोल, ठीक है, कंट्रोल साइड में अपना ओके, एडवांस शेयरिंग ऑप्शन, व्हाट इज इट? होस्ट कैन अलाउ मल्टीपल प्लेटफॉर्म्स. जस्ट डोंट टच द स्क्रीन, लेट्स कीप इट लाइक दैट फॉर नाउ. ओके, fine. Now let's move on team. Okay, but by the way, the star was nice, जिसने भी ड्रॉ किया था. Fine team. ठीक है, चलो let's go. Okay, so fine. So what I was saying is, if in the beginning of the sprint you do things properly, your entire 2 weeks will be very peaceful. No tension, no worry, no risk of deadlines, no risk of last moment surprises, and it is almost guaranteed that by the end of the sprint you will make the work possible. But if this initial thing is not happening properly, entire 2 weeks struggle, tension, stretches, weekend working, follow-ups, and still doing hard work, no getting results, and then pressure, tension, everything comes up. So the beginning is, if this is fixed, everything is peaceful. Now the second thing you need to understand, by fixing this is not just the responsibility of your senior team members. Okay, it's not just the responsibility of your senior guys. Basically, even juniors, 2 years experience, 3 years experience, you can make your own life peaceful by properly involving as part of these activities. Okay, so don't think that my project mein seniors are not able to do things, that's where your life is struggling. You can start taking care of yourself, and today we will even define what should be your checklist and how you should take those actions. Okay, fine. So majorly today we will stick with this, and next comes, like, when we reach on to tomorrow, we will speak about how do you behave through the entire sprint development cycle. Okay, this is how it is, three-day system for doing it. Okay, fine. Now next, moving on, what we came across, basic cycle. Okay, how it works. So you take the requirement and then move on to the next phases. So one by one, this is how basically a waterfall model used to work, right? We just have steps of approach. Now we need to figure out how all these approaches can be applied to agile way of work, which is like 2 weeks window. So basic things will be the same. Requirement has to be done, it has to be analyzed, it has to be designed, it has to be reviewed, developed, blah blah blah. The steps of cycle will remain the same. Okay, the thing is, we just have to plug it up into a 2 weeks of window. And now this is where it gets interesting, guys. Our 2 weeks window keeps happening back to back. Okay, what does that mean? Let me say key. So okay, so let's say sprint 1. Okay, so week 1, week 2, this is sprint 1 happening, week 1, week 2. Next, back to back, immediately sprint 2 will start, which will be week 3, week 4. So it will always keep happening. 2 weeks, 2 week cycle is just continuously running for entire 1 year. Okay. Now what you need to think about is, while you are in sprint 1, how much you should be prepared for sprint 2. And while you are in sprint 2, because it's a continuous cycle, you itself has to prepare more clarity for that item, and then you keep moving on. So this is where you need to properly fit the waterfall model of working into the sprint kind of working, and you're working continuously. So they are not going to give you one additional week in between. Okay, now you plan for the next sprint. That doesn't happen. You are already doing development and everything in current sprint, and now you just have to prepare for the next sprint and then start working towards that. So you need to know how to effectively manage yourself. Otherwise, many people, unfortunately, what they get wrong is, let's say while they are developing for the sprint 1, they are doing development and everything. Plus, there is also this expectation that these people should be prepared for the next sprint also. And if then you're not balancing yourself properly, your current sprint work gets affected. Plus, next sprint related also doesn't happen properly. Frustration starts coming. Okay, so just I'm trying to show that there will be complexity if you don't organize yourself properly here. Okay, so just trying to say that. Fine. So chalo, as part of that, today too we'll get in more details, and then moving on forward. So first we said requirement gathering phase will happen. Okay, few key checklists, guys. I would recommend key bookmark this link, and right from your next sprint perspective, try to follow these things, try to really suggest these things in your teams and get it to work. Okay, don't just keep it in theory. Change will not happen. So keep this list with you, start acting accordingly. So requirements are shared in the form of user stories. Next, there is a proper format. You can suggest that format internally if it is not followed as a very good. It's defined by Agile team itself format, so it's not something new. Okay. Next, it should be in Jira. Okay, let me tell this one thing is, what problems happen in system. You have written a requirement is given to you in Jira. Okay. For many projects, people start compromising. They don't write full requirements, or sometimes they just get in a call, explain it and say, okay, do it. Now, because of this not having things in Jira, lot of misinterpretation happens, and then wrong thing is developed. And when the people give demo back to the product, they are unhappy. Okay. So that is where it is important to have it in Jira. And now let me tell you this, it is so important key. What has happened for many of my projects, let's say few months from now, when your feature is running in production, okay, if whatever happens in the feature and if people feel that is not right, they straight away go to Jira and then they say, okay, what was the requirement and is the system really behaving like that or not? And guys, as a technical team, it is your responsibility that you should always be building what is mentioned in Jira. Okay, it is so strict ki bhai, if Jira says something else and you have developed something else, the consequences could be pretty serious. Okay, so guys, understand, Jira abiding in your code is very important. The requirements which are mentioned in Jira, you have to code every single of it. Nothing can be missed. And if you're adding anything different than Jira, you have to speak with the product owner and get it done. It's very important. Guys, it is so important that jobs can go because of that. Clients can simply say, ki bhai, your team is not adhering, we don't want to work with this team, just remove these people. It can go to that. Okay? I have literally heard about some case, not seen with my eyes, but some other company, I heard about this case. One person misinterpreted a lot of requirements because it was not in Jira. He completely misunderstood it, not his fault, misunderstood it, developed it, and it went to production also. So somehow UAT and all that passed, went to production. And after 3 months, people realized ki bhai, the team said something else, he understood something else, and it even went through end-to-end problem. Okay. And as an impact of that, straight away he was terminated. Ki bhai, how can you do such a kind of blunder? But you need to understand ki it's not a mistake of one person. It's a mistake of the system. And that's where Agile is saying, and you should enforce, why things has to be in Jira. Then developer develops it, QA validates it, and every single line which is there, you have to build the same. because Jira becomes the requirement of your system. Okay, this is how it has to be tracked. And fine, so understand the value of Jira, guys. Okay, requirements has to be there, you have to build that only. Next, product owner explains it to you, and then to and fro, and you do it. Fine, we discuss this. Moving on, user story requirements. We discussed that every user story should have a format. Again, a user story format. Okay, once I think if you're already working, so you'll be aware of it. But three basic things has to be clear whenever taking requirement. Okay, for whom this is being developed. Okay, what exactly needs to be developed and why you're doing it. Okay, it is practically observed that if only requirement is coming, okay, do it like this, nothing but what section, then people get a lot of questions, confusion, because they don't understand the why behind it and for whom it is there. A lot of wrong interpretations happen. Okay, that's where simple format this is required. Next, acceptance criteria, assumptions, dependencies, mock-up framework questions. We discuss this. Moving on, internal grooming. Then we discuss whatever is discussed in the grooming call. Then internally the team has to again connect for discussions. So initially the tech lead goes through the ticket, but later on tech lead plus full team connects back again. Now when they are connecting, as part of this internal grooming, lot of discussion happens. Key major thing is high level, even technical approach is being discussed there. Okay, and guys, I would suggest, even as 2 years experienced person or 3 years experienced person, contribute as part of this. I have seen many juniors, they are just sitting and listening there. Don't do it like that. Okay, try to contribute, try to think, try to suggest, try to say. You might be wrong, but the more you do it now, internally this hesitation, fear will go away. So try to contribute something to the conversations. If we do it like this, will it work? If it like that, will it work? And can we do it like this? Is this a better way, or that is a better way? I was thinking, well, add value. Okay, because when you just become a participant in the call without any value, so that automatically looks negative on your part. Care is not adding any value to the decisions. Okay, so the one who add value, those guys will be always recognized better. Okay, so whatever it is, so involve as part of this. And as it will come like, okay, when to use a Redis cache, or should we use a asynchronous message broker here, or writing things in the database via procedure, or like any other kind of thing, like calling a third party and blah blah blah. So all of these discussions, plus yesterday we discussed that code architecture wise. So with that, thoda high level pe where what we would have to do it. Okay, is there a reusability in the existing system? We have similar logic. Can we reuse something? All of those high level talks will be happening here. Okay. Now, one thing you understand, ki it is not sure whether you will be the person who will work on this requirement. Understand, this is a weekly call happening. Okay, so this is a weekly call. Right now you're doing something else. This is a weekly refinement call, grooming call happening. A requirement came like this. Product owner might come up with, let's say, 5 requirements to be discussed. Now he is not discussing who will be the developer working on it. Okay, this requirement is a common just a requirement, and it could be like out of 5 requirement you might work on 1 or 2. It completely depends. And who will work on that, who will work on what requirement, that is also not part of this. Okay, so just understand, this is only requirement discussions. But as a team member, guys, important, listen, as a team member, you should know every functionality which is coming into your system. Even though you might not develop it, but in future, let's say 3 months from now, the person who developed moves out. So you have to really maybe fix the problem or enhance the features. So that kind of dynamic nature IT expects. So don't be so narrow-minded ki mine is only this feature, I developed only this, I am responsible. No, you need to understand the full system. Okay, so keep your vision high, involve as part of this, understand every feature. That is how you get the domain knowledge more. That's how your vision and thought process will grow. Okay, so open up in this kind of conversations. Okay, very important. So, but yes, but now you will see key, yes, dependencies are tracked, splitting user stories we discuss, subtask creations we discuss. And again, I would repeat this subtask related. During these discussions, let me tell you, lot of value add conversations will happen. Lot of ideas will come. Okay, those ideas should be immediately written down somewhere, and those somewhere could be the subtasks. I unfortunately saw that for many projects, people discuss it, they don't note it down, and because of that, later on they forget it or they miss a few things. So people are smart. They are able to capture. Matlab, ideas are coming. They are able to see what can work, what cannot work, but they are not writing it. Ke bullet points. Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4. We have to do all of these things. So because they don't track those things properly, they might forget, overlook. So again, emphasizing, try to make some value out of it. Okay, if you can do it, it is good. If you can ask your seniors ki bhai how to do it, because there are so many tickets, can we start tracking this round robin ke base mein? Think about it, but tracking is required. Somebody should do it. I'm not saying you do it for all tickets, but somebody should do it. Add that idea to the table. Okay, now another thing, guys, this is important. Last time we discussed about time estimate and story pointing. Okay, now let me, in the next slide, we have discussed this more here, but I want to tell you something key. These estimates are again not with respect to one person, right? Because the story, the requirement that is being discussed, it is not with regards to one person. There could be juniors in the team, there could be seniors in the team. 2 years experience could be there, fresher could be there, or there could be a 8 years, 10 years experience person. So when these estimations, guys, this is how you freshers or juniors, beginners in the industry should open up your mind. These estimations which are provided, it is regardless of who is going to work on the ticket. This is a generic thing mentioned. Okay, when you say 8 hours, this is average. On an average, if anybody works in my team, it is going to take 8 hours. So understand, while the initial level estimations are happening, it is not really happening based upon who you are. Okay, it is generic happening considering average expectation of some average person or better average person. Now, point is, when this ticket will be allocated for working, at that time, your play will come in picture. Okay, so this is average. So just understand, estimations are already done considering maybe even a 3 years of experience person, and you as a 2 years experience might pick up that ticket also. So that kind of clarity has to happen. Ki bhai average ho raha. Similarly, this story point velocity, if you give 2, anybody can work. Junior can be working, senior can be working. So understand, these are two separate things. Estimation is generic estimations, and when you work on that, that will be different regardless of what experience level you are. So thoda sa ye bridging has to happen. Okay, and why IT industry has done that is just to simplify things. Why? Because technical team mein, let's say, a lot of people will keep coming and going. So if every time, every requirement you start looking from, let's say, one person, for example, right now I see Shenu. So Shenu is having 1 year of experience. If we do all of this estimation, everything with regards to Shenu, and let's say unfortunately he is on a sick leave for next 1 week while the development is going to happen, then you have to recalculate everything from other developer perspective. So that's not practical. So we cannot do targeted estimations based upon a single person, because that person might not even be while we are developing this feature. So this is just happening, grooming separate, development separate. So it has to be generic, and accordingly that gives it challenging for some of the people. So you might have to stand up to it. The team will provide the required support, but just understand in what game you are playing here. Okay, okay, fine. So estimations done, and then story pointing related estimation, we already spoke about it last time itself. Total time required divided by 2 plus complexity plus risk factor. If any of your work is getting a 0, so then write a 0. If you feel it's not complex, add a 0 there. If you feel it's not risky, add a 0. So you do this, the sum of these 3 will become story pointing, and you have to match it to the Fibonacci number. Okay, so fine, this is how what we already discussed. Okay, now what has happened so far? So far we have a user story which is written by, I'm saying, what is the end result of so far state. Okay, so guys, we have a user story, and guys, this is required for everyone. You know why IT people are getting under pressure? Because they don't understand all these things. Sirf technical leke aa jate company mein, and then they struggle with all this, and then that adds client pressure, tension, late stretch, and lack of planning and execution. So I'm just trying to simplify. We have a user story right now. We have made some assumptions, right? I'm just looking here. We have made some assumptions. Okay, it is user story plus it is having a template, defined template. Okay. Next, if any dependencies are there in your system, it is already identified. Let's say third party call has to be there, or it could be anything. Okay, infra DevOps dependency could be there. Okay, DevOps dependency could be there, or data warehouse dependency could be there. Okay, or let's say any other person outside your team, if there is another architect, his decision is required for you to implement, that could be. So you have to figure out all other dependencies. Okay, so all those things will be tracked. Next, any mocks required for UI guys, that will be there. If there are any open questions, you got that. Okay, plus when you go on next, you are realizing here, we even raised one thing in the internal grooming. Okay, so we even raised one thing, the split the user story. So this user story has to be splitted into smaller story. Don't take big stories. It will cause a lot of problems for you guys in estimations, execution. Use cases will be messed, quality will be bad if the user story is big. So maintain that kind of decency. Smaller things, two days of work, something like that user story. Okay, so mocks done, high level tech approach done. Okay, and estimations done. Okay, estimations done. Now what exactly these things are? Okay, there are two parts to it. One is the responsibility of the product owner, and one is the responsibility of the tech team. Understand who is supposed to do what. Okay, so product owner, basically you have to do all of this work with the product owner to get all these things sorted. And then comes a technical team where you guys are doing all of these things. Maybe subtask creations and all that also comes as part of tech team. Okay, now this itself, there is a term in Agile called as definition of ready, DOR. What they say is ki, okay, as a thumb rule, if the ticket, this requirement is also called as a ticket, user story, these requirements are also called as ticket, just terminology. Okay, so if the user story or the ticket is meeting this definition of ready, DOR, definition of ready, then only the ticket is eligible for picking up as part of the next sprint. Okay, this is how thumb rule. Many projects violate it. Not ready tickets they are picking for development. 2 weeks mein clarity is not coming. They have to maybe pause the work or delay the work, and then team becomes frustrated. So it is your responsibility. Clarity should be there, and all of these things become part of your definition of ready. Okay, is the user story given us clearly what is required? Is the acceptance criteria also mentioned? Are the assumptions written on the ticket? Are the dependencies identified? Are the mocks ready in the ticket? Next, are there all the open questions are answered properly? Because there will be questions, you need to follow up with the product members to get the questions answered. And is it fully clear? Okay, and next, sometimes maybe yesterday Mukhtar was saying, right, third party integrations will be there, so we will get API documentations. So that means there could be that thing also. Okay, API documentation, did you get the right API documentation? Those things could also be. So this becomes your definition of ready. So generally people consider it ready only from product perspective. Tech wise they say, okay, you have to anyways take care of it. If it is your is a technology side, then they say, you have to figure these things out. But from product perspective, we are saying, because product is on the client location, so then people say, if these things are done, then only we will pick the item for the sprint. Okay, so questions should not be there, everything should be clarified, and all of these other things should be done. That is what called as definition of ready. So is it really ready for development? And you or your seniors should straight away say, if it is not following this checklist, we will not be picking up in this coming sprint. That's it. You need to push back, guys. Dekho, one thing which I realized out of my full experience is, if you really take a stand for what is right, the system will correct itself. Okay, but you have to be sensible. Okay, don't get rude. IT may, you need to use your words very carefully. Disrespecting, arrogance, rudeness, or doesn't आना ही नहीं चाहिए. You have to be humble, you have to be down to earth, and you have to take a stand for what is right. Okay, all of those conversations will be there, people will be against you, they might not agree with you, still patiently how do you put your point, but you need to take a stand. This is what I realized. If things are going wrong, somebody takes a stand, then things start correcting. So this is one checkpoint. If in your project these things are not happening properly, you should not pick up for development in the next sprint. Push the product guys back, bhai, give us right clarifications on the time, and all this work happens beforehand. Okay, so fine, this is definition of ready. Now what happens is, if it becomes definition of ready, okay, then you further take it, you have all these estimations also ready, and then this becomes part of product backlog. Abhi yahan tak pahunche. After all of this drama, whatever we were doing, the product backlog is prepared. Okay, and how does it work? Okay, let me zoom this a bit. How do I hide this? How do I? Okay, yeah. So देखो, product backlog में, here the definition it is saying, okay, prioritized list of what is required features or bugs to fix. Nothing but it is a list of feature what needs to be developed. So it is all that list which is available as part of product backlog, which is even groomed and ready for development. Definition of R is met. Okay, okay, very good. Now once this is done, then comes the next phase. Okay, and the next phase is sprint planning meeting. Now let me tell some very critical do's and don'ts. And if you see this, this is sprint planning meeting. What it is saying as per definition, team selects starting at the top as much as it can commit to deliver by the end of the sprint. So let's say for some example, sprint is a 2 weeks of sprint. So as part of the sprint planning meeting, the team comes and they decides how much work they can finish by the end of this 2 week sprint. That meeting is nothing but sprint planning meeting. Okay, so team selects starting at top as much as it can commit to deliver by the end of the sprint. So it becomes the work of product owner that assign these items in a priority based upon need of the business, what they want in production early. So whenever a requirement comes, the tech team, product team grooms it together, requirements are clarified, they are all added in the backlog. Okay, and then it is aligned in a priority by the product owner, most important item for the business to least important. And then as a technical team, during sprint planning, you take the items from here and then you finalize how, or like which items you will finish in the coming 2 weeks of time. Okay, now let me tell you, Agile says a lot of things here. Okay, Agile says ki day 1 of the sprint, this has to happen. Okay, day 1 of the sprint, you have to do sprint planning meeting. Okay, second thing, Agile is even saying the grooming meeting which we spoke about so far, it is an optional meeting, because sometimes it says you try to finish that kind of grooming maybe as part of sprint planning also. Okay, it is optional, it says, it is not mandating. And guys, because this Agile is leaving loopholes for the teams to decide what works for them, it is observed that multiple teams are making wrong decisions for using Agile. Okay, they are saying it's optional, so let's not do it. Let's try to do the discussion as part of sprint planning meeting. And guys, how is it possible? Do you think in limited time you can groom all the stories, get all the questions? It's not possible. So if in your team grooming and all that is not happening before sprint planning, there will be consequences, because Agile ek aur variant bolta hai. Agile is saying this sprint planning meeting should be 2 hours. If it is extending more than 2 hours, it is Scrum Master's responsibility that it should take only 2 hours. Alright, technical team again here will be confused. We are not clear with requirement what to do with your agile if it is restricting us 2 hours. We are not clear. We need 4 hours. Okay. So point is, because of these open things, wrongly people are implementing agile, and which is backfiring very badly. So what system that I'm trying to share with you is, after a lot of these experiments, what agile said, what we wanted, and then tweaking the system and trying to customize it, we realized ki bhai, there has to be a separate grooming call, and that should happen as a mandatory call before the sprint planning ever happens. And then there is a parallel process where you groom it, make it clear, pull it up here, so that when you come for the sprint planning meeting, you are not in that headache of now we have to groom and understand requirement. Here you do it simple. You already know the tickets, you already know the estimations, you just have to do the rest of the planning. Key, how many tickets we can pick as part of this sprint, and who should be working on those tickets, and just those kind of items. So you are not worried about functionally what needs to be done. You're just worried about how you have to work in the next coming 2 sprints. Guys, understand this clarity. There are 2 things. One is requirement clarification. Second point is, as part of next 2 weeks, who will work on the requirement? What will be the priority? Because now planning will be required, right? There is a UI person, server person, QA person. They are all 3 going to work on the same tickets. Now there is dependency between these 3 guys. By the time the tester is ready with the test cases, UI and server should develop that ticket. And we have 10 days. Sprint is of 10 days. Nothing but now they have to really plan in a manner ki, okay, first we will pick up this ticket, UI will work for 1 day, server will work for 2 days. In the next 3 days, we will finish this ticket, then hand it over to QA. By that time, QA should be ready with the test cases so that he can execute it. Nothing but just understand, if you think it logically, all of the tickets which are going to be picked up in the 2 weeks needs planning, prioritization. Okay, developers should work initially on what? QA, how should they progress? And now this is completely up to the team, okay, how do they plan it? But a very dynamic, and this itself becomes brainstorming. And it has to be like, okay, which developer should work on what tickets? And then it comes like, okay, junior, if he is picking a serious ticket, we should say, no, junior, to thoda lower intensity wala ticket le. And seniors can work on more complicated tickets. So like that work allocation and all of that thing happens as part of sprint planning. So my strong suggestion to you will be, grooming part, close it before the sprint itself. And then on the sprint planning day, you just focus on these things of planning for the 2 weeks, who will work on what and all these other things. Okay. Now there is another catch here. Okay. It doesn't end here. Now what is going to happen? Earlier, now, okay, we are getting in more. Okay. So far, guys, getting it right? Throw a few dones if you are on the pace of whatever we are discussing so far. Okay, just a few dones if you guys are really catching up with what I'm trying to say, guys. Okay, Dhanraj, Shenu, Akhila says done. Rest of the members, Neelu is going good. Durgesh is nice. Jitender, okay, cool. Okay, Shruti, Mukesh, and all that also. Guys, thoda sa be active. Okay, I don't know whether you guys have slept behind the screen. This is important stuff. Fine. Okay, Sukanta also says, Abhishek also says, Mangesh says, Divesh says. Okay, fine. Chalo guys, let's move on. Okay, now guys, okay, what happens? And you have to keep it things flexible. Okay, how we do it in our team. Okay, day 1 of the sprint is very important for us. Okay, why? Because day 1 is the day where whatever work is being planned, the team will be going ahead with that. And what I realized out of my full experience, if day 1 of your sprints are not executed properly, the rest of the 9 days, people will suffer. On an average, if you see, people will struggle the rest of the full sprint if they don't do certain set of activities on day 1. Okay. Now, what is required? First, I'll tell you what you are supposed to do as part of day one. Okay? Yes, sprint planning meeting will happen. Let's say, so for us, the weekly cycle is Tuesday to bi-weekly Tuesday. Okay, that's how. So it completely depends from you guys how it should work. So let's say during the, in fact, we have even tweaked it in our system. What we did is one day before itself, the sprint, one day before itself of the sprint starting, we do the sprint planning meeting. As part of sprint planning meeting, we finalize which items we can pick as part of this current sprint. Okay, we even finalize which team members should do it. Nothing but we do the sprint planning meeting one day before the sprint itself. Okay, why? Because what happens, again, guys, trying to share you some clarity. Maybe you can apply this and customize it as part of your project cycle. So what we noticed is there are few things. Okay, because we realized if we do all of these activities even on the day one, it becomes pretty challenging. So we want to keep things clear. So how our sprint happens, just sharing maybe some thoughts to you so that you can think about it and understand why we are doing what we are doing, so you can relate it with it. Okay, so our sprint cycle starts on Tuesday. Okay, so this is week 1 Tuesday. So then it will become week 2 Tuesday. Okay, and then comes week 3 Tuesday. So basically, if you see our sprint, let's say as per this calendar, if our sprint is starting on 8th of November, example say 8th of November, so then this sprint will continue for 2 weeks, nothing but 8th November to 21st of November. This is the cycle. So ek ho jata hai 8 to 14, and then the second week comes 15 to 21. Okay, so this is a 2-week cycle, 8 to 21. Okay, so 8 to 21 November. So if you see the last day of the sprint, which is 21, okay, so it is reserved for some kind of sprint demos and all of these things. Okay, the last day of the sprint is reserved for sprint demos and these kind of things. So what happens accordingly? So generally, how we have planned it is Tuesday, chalo, we start week 1 happening. Week 1 Tuesday sprint starts. Then week 1 Friday finishes. Okay, fine. Then week 2 Monday we start. We try to make sure that by maximum of week 2 Tuesday, maximum of our work is finished and we are handing over to the QA. Okay. Sometimes Wednesday bhi jata hai, but majority of the work should be given to the QA by this time. So that means 4-5 days of development you get Tuesday to Friday, 4 days in the week 1, and then yahan pe you get 1 day, like 5 days, 6 days work of development you are able to do, and then give it to the QA. So that is how week 2 will be finished. Okay. Next week 2, it becomes like Tuesday you hand over, and then till Friday. What we try that till Friday we get the sign off of everything. This is how we plan the sprint. Week 1 sprint is starting on Tuesday, so we get 4 days here, and here we get 5 days. Week 2, Monday to Friday. Yahan pe we get 4 days because it's Tuesday to Friday, and then week 2 comes, here we get 5 days. So how we are planning is week 1 mein itna ho jata hai, and then week 2 wise by Friday we try to get full QA sign off for all the features which is promised as part of that sprint. So this cycle, whatever was there, we try to finish almost for everything in 9 days. And we plan it in that manner because it might still overflow one day due to whatever bugs and all. And then comes week 3 related, Monday basically, which is the last day of the sprint. So last day of the sprint, generally we engage in activities like giving demos, okay, the final bug fixing, if anything, bug fixing, okay. And while we are doing it, so we also ensure sprint planning meeting is also finishing at that time. So we are clear key even for the next sprint what needs to be done. So what happens is in this 10 days of window, we reserve 1 hour where there is no code happening. It's a bug fixing time, demos time, people are chilling out. It's the last day of the sprint. They get a peace of mind. and they have already groomed items beforehand this time also. This is like one day before the next sprint. So grooming has happened previously only. The tickets are already clear. So we are able to do a proper sprint planning even before the day one. So what this guy is saying here, sprint planning, we finish this even before one day before we start the sprint. That gives us more time so that next Tuesday when we come in, team can fully with a fresh mind start new. Okay. Now still just understand what checkpoint we have added. And guys, I would suggest this really works out pretty nicely for us. Okay. So not doing it, say more time will be gone on the day one of the sprint. Okay. And all those things. So यहाँ से peace of mind रहता है. Okay, we are fully ready for the next sprint also. So what is happening is sprint planning generally, Agile is saying on the day one of the sprint it should happen. We are even taking one day before than that. So, but yeah, उसके आगे तो नहीं जाना चाहिए. Okay, and it has to be, if you're saying on the day one, it has to be your first half of the day. If you're not doing it first half of the day, you have lost already half of a day of the sprint and the team does not know what to do. They will waste full one day basically, and that's bad. Okay, so we arranged it in a manner that last day you do all these activity so that from Tuesday onwards, the team becomes productive. Okay, they are able to take it. But so we are doing it one day before. Okay, next, once this happens, sprint planning, we are clear who works on what tickets. I'll guys in the end summarize what are your checkpoints which we have to maintain. Okay, we still have 15 minutes roughly for the call. Okay, so we do all this, and now comes guys the day one. Now let's say in your team, if you have not closed one day before, then as part of this sprint planning meeting will happen on day one. Let's say if in your team it is not one day before, so you will do it on sprint plan, but you need to start introducing this as a thumb rule. The grooming requirement discussions should not be as part of sprint planning, because if it comes to sprint planning, guys, let me promise you 2 hours will not be sufficient. You will compromise with your design discussions. You will compromise with the clarity. There will be open questions, and you will still start with the release with the sprint cycle. You will give commitments to the product. Okay, yes, we are finishing these items, because end result of sprint planning meeting is whatever work you guys can deliver as part of that sprint. And if you guys did not analyze it, discuss it properly, you will give wrong commitment. And that is where, because of these false commitment, everything fails in the sprint. Everything fails because you did not analyze it. You did not get time. 2 hours are very short time for that. So even though if you are doing sprint planning on day one, that is still fine, but grooming should not be part of this. Finish the grooming first. Sprint planning only focus ki bhai, who will work on what? Who will work on what? Okay, that kind of planning, and how much work, how much tickets can be closed. And guys, dekho, thoda upfront planning is required. So if in this next 2 weeks you have any leave plans, so you have to tell that upfront itself. In the next 2 weeks, I will be on a leave for 2 days. So accordingly, we will not be picking up those 2 days of items here. So be clear, upfront communication of your leave plan is required. Minimum 2 days advance, you have to do a planned leave. Okay, if you can do it like 1 month ahead, that's also fine. But sprint se pehle to clarity should be there, how much time it will take. So you have to do that communication. Unexpected agar kuch ho jata hai, unplanned leave, so fine, team will somehow manage for that. Okay, fine. Now guys, what needs to happen on day one? Okay, thoda sa abhi let's take a minute, thoda deep breath karo, just relax out. Day one items are important because here you will be closely involved. Abhi tak to I was just guiding ki yahan kaise aate. Day one pe abhi you have to become active. I'll start discussing on the checklist straight away what you guys are supposed to do by day one. Okay, and if it is not done on the day one, there will be consequences. So these are thumb rules, these are boundaries, these are like Lakshman Rekhas, you should not violate. don't cross these lines, guys. It will have consequences. I've seen it happening. Okay, dekho. Now what is happening? Let's say sprint planning has happened. I'm talking after sprint planning with you now. Okay, after sprint planning. So be it यहाँ पे हुआ है or day one of the sprint, but sprint planning is done. Now what you are supposed to do? Okay, देखो, first as a person you will know what tickets you will be working on. Okay, that is the one thing which you guys should be 100% clear on the day one itself. Okay, now the thing is ki different teams might do it differently. Thoda sa just understand. Some teams, what they do, for example our team, and I have seen many teams, what they do is day one mein they plan it for the full team. Okay, for example dev 1, dev 2, dev 3. So they will plan that dev 1 will pick 2 tickets, dev 2 will plan, let's say 4 tickets, dev 3 will pick 1 ticket. So all the, even which tickets they will pick, that kind of clarity is there. Okay? In Kanban model, in some other variation of Agile, this kind of clarity is not there ki who should pick what ticket. It is like you finish, you take 1 ticket, dev takes 1 ticket, and when he is done, he goes back, picks up another ticket and does it. So you will find some kind of team where you will not know all the tickets which you are going to work on that sprint. There will just be a backlog of items. You take 1 ticket, you finish it. Next, whichever is available, you take that and you finish it. Okay? But that will be one variation. Okay? But if there is a different variation where in our team we are working and that is really giving us good value, where we already know as part of sprint planning who is going to work on what tickets also, because we have thought about it. Juniors ko we will not give more complicated tickets. Seniors will take that kind of mid ko proper denge. Who is the UI? Who is the server? We do all of that planning as part of our sprint planning itself. Okay. Now the thing is, if you already know all the tickets that you are supposed to work, your first checkpoint should be read ticket line by line fully. Why? Because your requirement grooming you did last week or time before that, you might forget about it. So don't just remember, I did it last week only, now let me get started with the coding and all. No, guys, give time for these things. Read full ticket line by line. Okay, next. Okay, next, read full ticket line by line. Next, read high level tech discussions. Okay, next, abhi now your work also starts. Okay, do impact analysis and low level implementation discussions. Nothing but you have to now start thinking, okay, if you want to now code these things, high level to clarity is there, okay, we will have this kind of structure here, but now you have to even think about how will you write low level implementation. Okay, which is low level implementation means what should be your API contract, the name, the request, the response. If you are typing a database, what should be your DB design? Okay, next, if you want to call any Redis and all that, so is there any reusability in picture? Existing pieces you want to use and all. So nothing but this becomes granular details. And then you're doing impact analysis. You're trying to even check it in the code. If I'm writing all this thing, can I break the old system or not? Nothing but you take the ticket, you see the high level things. Now you start thinking about how will you actually code it? What is running in your mind? And at the same time, okay, I highly encourage, do this discussion with other team members. Guys, this is the question. Not you're in control, but maybe I don't know if in your team it is possible. But how we are doing in our team is ki bhai, all server guys connect together. Next, separate meeting, all UI members connect together. Next, all QA members connect together. Separate calls, where they walk through each of the ticket of every developer, and now they are thinking about low level implementations. Then there might be any questions. There might be any questions coming. Okay, then you can ask, okay, bhai, estimation says 2 days, but I'm not sure because I'm not clear on all this. It might not take 2 days. It might take more time for me. Raising that. If you have any doubts on your ticket estimations, doubts on your tickets estimations, don't just say ki bhai 1 week ago somebody decided some estimation, but now you are going to work, double validate it. Do you really think it is possible? So double check your estimations. Is it really practical to do it by that time? If you still have questions, try to get the clarity. If there are still dependencies for that ticket, कि भाई you need some credentials from somebody or some infrastructure, DevOps team should do some network installation, software installation and port opening so that you can work forward. Those things also has to be recollected. So, and you will do this kind of activities. And further, okay, if there is any open questions which needs to be coming from product also, you should have a full clarity of this work for each of your tickets. So you should think, are you fully clear on your requirement? Are there any open questions here? Do you know ki how even it should be implemented to a granular level? Did you discuss it with the other team members? And it doesn't stop here. You need to even discuss ki, is the UI, server, QA on the same page? With 3 people will be working on the same feature. By whatever is your understanding, the QA is also understood the same, the server guy is understanding the same. Are we on the same page or is there a confusion? That kind of these generally people call this maybe as 3 amigo sessions. 3 amigo sessions, that's one of a terminology. Like these 3 people connect on the day one. So, and then just discuss, ki bhai, this is what we feel, this is what is the requirement, everybody is clear, all good. So what is happening is on the day one of the sprint, you are asking all of these questions. You have not yet started developing anything. You're asking all of these questions to each of your tickets. Each of your tickets. If you have 3 tickets of that sprint, one by one, you take the ticket, you read it, you ask questions, you think granular, you see are there any dependencies, you come up with your list. So you do that for each of your item. You work with for your ticket who is going to be, there might be multiple QAs, multiple UI members. So you need to be knowing for your ticket who is the QA, who is the UI member, and try to have a conversation with them. So the more you do this activity on day one for each of your ticket, that is where you will know how much complex your sprint is going to go. And if you don't do this, let me tell you, all these surprises, unplanned dependencies will pop up. The other members might say, "Are you developed something else? We are expecting something else." You did not have discussion with your seniors. They will say the entire code you have to rewrite now because this is not what we were looking for, because internal details you did not freeze it properly. Now, if you don't do all of these things, there will be rework, there will be consequences, and there is going to be a lot of struggle. And if you're not doing it for all ticket in one go, and if you start doing it one by one for every ticket, your life will be painful all throughout your sprint. You have to narrow down that pain. Spend 3 hours on the day one of the sprint, look at every ticket, clarify it. If you don't do that for all of your sprint items, you will struggle full week, too much exhaustion, every time the same thing, same dependencies. And you know, another beauty part of this is, let's say 3 tickets you have, there might be a lot of dependencies, but if you track them and if you follow up on these all 3 ticket dependencies in the day one, day two itself, by maybe 3rd day, everything might be sorted. But if you do 1 ticket at a time, let's say Tuesday you started developing 1 ticket, and after 2 days, Thursday you picked up another ticket, and then you analyze all this, and then you realize dependency. So then you are slowing down the dependency resolution time. So my suggestion for you, which will guaranteed work, day one of the sprint, all the tickets which are assigned to you, read it, follow up all of these things for that. Work with your other team members to check whether everybody is on the same page about what needs to be developed, what needs to be tested. Check with your seniors if your internal implementation planning is looking good. all of that for each of the ticket of the sprint has to happen for every developer or QA of the system on the day one. And if this is not happening, don't close your day one, because your next 9 days of the sprint you will struggle like anything. Okay, so just understand this cannot be violated, guys. Don't do that. And because we want to do all of these things on the day one, that is where we moved sprint planning, requirement grooming, sprint planning 1 day before itself, so that on the day of sprint planning we just see who works on what tickets, then team gets internally, they do all these discussions. If there are questions, we consolidate that in Jira, we raise it to the Scrum Master, so that the Scrum Master gets the clarifications, dependencies and all of that. But you need to take ownership of your tickets. That's what it is. Okay, and guys, if you violate these all things in the beginning, there will be consequences.
Sir, ये text group में paste कर देना sir.
Yeah, मैं इसको I'll put this in blog also. ठीक है?
हाँ, ग्रुप में जरूर कर देना सर पहले.
यस करता हूँ, मैं करता हूँ. ठीक है, तो इसको ब्लॉग में डालेंगे, ग्रुप में डालेंगे, सब जगह डालेंगे. ठीक है, सो okay, this is what I would like to take a stop at the day यहाँ तक. Okay, this checklist plus these everything I will be putting it, I'll put it in this chat also. Okay, now another thing is, okay, tomorrow when we meet, so what is happened is day one ke usme you have this clarity, all your tickets, what needs to be done, if there are questions, if there are dependencies, you know everything, you know where the complexity will be, the complexity will not be, sab kuch clear ho gaya. That means your next 2 weeks now you are on the driving seat ke what can happen, what cannot happen. And we are all smart people, right decisions will keep us on track. Now the second thing is, you just have to then, if this is done properly, then managing the 2 weeks becomes a pretty simple job. But that also needs some clarity, because as part of this 2 weeks, there is a lot of further breakdown. Okay, so which we are going to go in discussion tomorrow. Let me just show it to you guys if I can quickly go through. I'll not touch it now, we'll just take the attendance and then close the day. Okay, just 1 second. Yeah, this is how your further journey happens, which we are going to discuss tomorrow. So requirement understanding is done. Analysis and design review, we need to speak about this, how and where this happens. Next, coding and unit testing, peer review, writing test cases by QA, reviewing the test cases, test case execution and filing the bugs, supporting the developers in reproducing the bugs, bug fixing by the developer, functional QA sign off, moving the code into UAT and doing the sanity about that, and then it is like sign off and then UAT ready. So this is how you should target your journey for each of your ticket, and that is how the sprint execution happens. So what factors to focus, how this full journey will happen, how the code branch management will happen, repos and all that, the Bitbucket or whatever you might be using. So that execution part we will focus about in tomorrow's session. Okay, fine. And then I think it will be the day done, and we still like okay, there are a few more things to be done, guys. Okay, fine, let me share the attendance and then we will close the day. Absorb it. Okay, guys, absorb it. Things are in written. Think with a cool mind and start bringing some changes into your day-to-day work cycle, guys. Okay, taking the attendance, copy, pasting it in chat. Attendance code is 7777 and this is the link. Okay, everybody, chalo, let's mark the attendance. It's 10:05. Tomorrow we will do the third day of our corporate agile. These are basic principles. You start bringing changes. Now you analyze all of this. The recordings are available on YouTube. Walk through that, make your own action plans, apply it at work, experiment it out, and make decisions. Okay. And whatever we discussed, guys.
सर जो डॉक्यूमेंट है ना उसको लिंक भेजना सर, जो लिंक्डइन ब्लॉग है जो आपने
Okay, okay, okay. ठीक है, let me paste that. LinkedIn blog भी यहाँ पे I am putting it in this chat here. Paste it. Okay, and guys, as part of week 1, we discussed about some strategies, identifying what skills you want to improve upon, what's your certification, what's your plan for doing it. So we will be reserving one more day on that full 1 hour where we practically do some live brainstorming in order to go in that direction. Okay, so we will not just take it and forget it. Okay, so we will go to that form again. Let's do a practical exercise where you really identify your skills to work upon. Right now we said all these things. Also, let's do a proper execution and planning. What changes should come into your lifestyle to go to corporate success. And mostly all this will happen as part of this week. Then week 3 will start where we will focus on corporate communication. How do you drive meetings? How do you remove your hesitation? Few techniques on that. And then slowly we will be increasing. Okay, how do you get a full-fledged, complete, successful IT professional, which will have a cool, peaceful state of mind, plus presence of mind, lifestyle change, time management, productive. Okay, and I've been through some very hard times in my life, but because of a certain lifestyle, I was able to very nicely come back. Work pressure, anything can be dealt very easily if your lifestyle is right. So we are going to practically even implement that. So if you really want to change, a lot of things will happen. Okay. So chalo, thank you everybody, and see you guys then tomorrow morning 6 a.m. for some of the guys, and rest we will catch up 9 p.m. Okay. So thank you.